This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, everyone. This is Dan Knutson. I'm the Community Relations Officer with U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services out of the Charlotte Field Office. And I want to thank you for the time today just to come and give you a little bit of information on how we can work together to promote citizenship in our communities through the libraries. The first thing I do have to do, though, is to present to you, if I can get it to work here. Let's see. Well, I guess we'll go there. All right, I do have to read a quick disclaimer to you. Basically, all this is saying is that this is a training module for information purposes only. All right. USCIS was established back in 2003 under the Department of Homeland Security. You know, once we were attacked on 9/11, it really opened the eyes of the federal government that we needed to do something about our immigration program and protecting, you know, our borders. So they established the Department of Homeland Security by bringing together 22 different agencies. With that, USCIS was established as part of a 3-tier immigration program with the ICE component, the Immigration Custom Enforcement, and CBP being the enforcement side of the house, whereas USCIS is the benefit side of the house. We have 25 districts with which we are established in District 8, which encompasses the Carolinas as well as Alabama and Georgia. Just to break out, I can show you where the field offices are here on this map. We've got one in Greer, Charleston, Charlotte, and in Raleigh. With Greer, we have a small field office headed up by Jacqueline Williams. Same as Charleston, a very small office with Caitlin Wegrisen. She's a newly appointed director down there. Our 2 larger facilities are here in Charlotte, headed by Leandra Holston, as well as Jay Wesselman up in our Raleigh-Durham field office. The jurisdictional areas, as you can see here, they cover the entire state and the counties. And you may notice that there's a lot of extra counties accounted for with each district. Well, the problem here is that the counties are divvied up specifically by zip code. So you may have, such as like down in the Fort Jackson, Columbia, we've got some areas that have to go to the GREER field office for assistance, where others would have to make the trip down to Charleston. Back in 2013, USCIS formed a partnership with the Institute of Museum and Library Services with the goal of providing immigration and citizenship information at our public libraries and other venues. They renewed this 3 years later to include specific outreaches at museums. It's been extremely successful endeavor for all of us in doing this. And the reason they chose libraries is because they are a welcoming space. I tell you what, I don't think I've ever been to a library, specifically up here in the Carolinas, where I have not felt welcomed when I walked in. The atmosphere, just the inviting environment for individuals coming in is just unbelievable. You know, they're located in convenient locations. They've got access to the internet. One of the unique things that we identified here is that in this last bullet is that more than 55% of those folks that are immigrating to the United States throughout the last 15 years typically utilize a public library at least once a week. You know, I look at the community that I live in here in Fort Mill, South Carolina, and I don't see that with my neighbors at all. But I do know that those that I've spoken to that have immigrated here, they often visit the public library, which is a great source and a great opportunity for them to learn more about the United States and how to get services here and to progress along with not only their education, but the education of their children. Throughout this last year, we had 12 national training seminars. These naturalization ceremonies continue to go up. We'll hold those at least once or twice a month throughout the United States at different libraries. The naturalization information sessions, which is something that most of our community relations officers do at the libraries, those are going up continuously. They get to be more and more popular. And in fact, I've got one coming up on Wednesday night up in Charlotte area to give to a library up there. But the opportunity is there for us to open the doors to the community, to let them know that, you know, you are partnering with us in trying to get information out to folks, because my job is not to go out and to identify folks who are not here legally. My job is to go out and give information to folks. So if people are not documented and they approach you and they want information, feel free to give them my name and my contact information. I don't share anything of my information that I meet with folks with anybody other than myself. You know, if I need resources, I'll get them, but people have no fear if they want to come and talk to me about their situation. And I will give them the information that I see legally as, you know, what they can do, and will refer them to the appropriate resources. Just to give you an idea, we've got almost 9 million lawful permanent residents that are eligible to apply for citizenship throughout the United States. As you can see, California and New York lead the way for the amount of people that are out there. On average, we have about 680,000 that naturalized. Last fiscal year, from October 1st to September 30th of this year, as you can see, those numbers are up over 20%. We anticipate that this was a response to the new administration that is in the White House right now, and people's fears. So we just want to make sure to let them know that, you know, even though they may apply, the process is still going on. It used to take approximately 4 months for an individual, once they applied, to become a naturalized citizen. But due to the increase in the number of filings across the board, not only for citizenship, but for other benefits, that delay has more than doubled. So we're sitting at approximately an 8-month wait right now. So I have to get out there and just ensure people that, hey, even though you've applied, don't worry if you haven't heard anything from us, you're still good to go. We are still taking care of your case. We've established Citizenship Corners at many of our libraries, and if you haven't had this opportunity, I would really encourage you to consider identifying some space if you could. The Citizenship Corners don't have to be anything spectacular. They could be something as simple as putting a display on a wall, in a case. It could be on a tabletop if you have it, on top of a bookshelf. It's just a means of displaying information where people can go to identify what are the requirements to become a naturalized citizen. And I'll show you here shortly some of this material on how to get that. We have flyers and posters that are available out there. They say these can be downloaded, but I tell you what, you contact me, I'll get you these nice color posters and flyers. I don't want you having to order them and downloading them to print, because it'll take a lot of ink to get them printed. But let me know and I'll be sure to get them to you. We have a resource center on our webpage. This is a great piece of information for folks that are looking for classes on where they can go to learn about citizenship. They can also get the study materials. They can do practice tests. The practice tests right now, I believe, are available in 12 different languages on our website, along with our vocabulary words. We've got 101 YouTube videos, which explain the process, one of an interview, and the others encompass the 100 civics questions in which folks are required to learn. We had a phone discussion this morning that USCIS is in the process of updating their study materials to be more of a generic question, in light of, in the past, we've had to change the flashcards out and the study materials every time we held an election. You know, and so you can only imagine the increase in cost it costs the government to produce these documents and these flashcards. So what they're going to do more or less down the line is, for these flashcards and all, is to just state who is the current president of the United States versus saying President Donald Trump is currently in office. So it'll give, you know, a little bit of help for those people that are out there to study and not have to worry about identifying specifically what the information is that's available on the flashcards that they have. These are some of the other materials that are available. I mentioned the flashcards. Vocabulary cards come in a white box and it identifies every single one of the vocabulary words. And what I encourage people to do is to take and look at those words individually, because we will formulate sentences for them to read and write based solely on those vocabulary words. We won't go above and beyond anything else that's in those words that we've published for them. So it's, I want to say it's an open book test, but they have the information available to learn. We have our large study guide, which is the red one with Mount Rushmore on it, and a small pocket guide that is currently available in English and Spanish. The pocket guide is just that. It goes into your pocket. It's a little bit bigger than a cell phone, and it contains the questions and answers for the civics test, whereas the larger booklet will go into a little bit more of a background detail on each of the questions. We have a citizenship toolkit, which is available that you can get from us. Again, if you let me know, I can get this for you. This is a great starter kit for your Citizenship Corners with the information that's held within it. We do have resources that are available online. my.uscis.gov is a tremendous site for people to visit. With that, we have several resources that are available. They can ask Emma. Emma is available in English and Spanish. It's basically a search engine on our website. People will put their question in, and Emma will identify where on our website they can get that information and direct them to specifically there. Explore My Options allow folks to do so much more than, say, the citizenship, but if they need to find out about how they can sponsor their parents or petition for their spouse or get a new green card, it'll allow them that opportunity to do that. It's pretty simple. It's really well planned out the way they did this. With the online process, you can check your fees, you can check the processing times, filing your forms. USCIS is going forward with the plan to require every single form that we are asking people to file. If they want to file an application for citizenship or whatever, they're going to be doing it all electronically in the next 2 to 3 years. Pretty aggressive timeline to get everything on board to do that. In the past, people have been having to fill out forms and send in documents. Now they're in the process where they can upload documents as well as filing their forms online. And there's also a big debate, that there's a lot of our new immigrants aren't computer savvy. They don't have computers in their home. They don't have access to these things. We understand that, and that's why we like to utilize resources such as our library for folks to go in and test the waters, so to speak, and to go online and to see how this process works. There's also a lot of organizations that are out there, community-based organizations and stakeholders, as we call them, that offer these services for folks, many of them for free. I work specifically here in the Charlotte metro area with the Latin American Coalition, the International House, and the Southeast Asia Coalition, along with 2 refugee organizations, just providing information to them and to their clients and their community out there at large. The filing fees can be identified online as well. And if someone happens to mention to you that USCIS had called them regarding a fee, please let them know. USCIS does not call individuals. We are wanting to make people aware that there are scams going on every single day. The only time that we're going to call an individual is if we have an office closure or we have to reschedule an appointment. We were notified over the weekend that the United States government is basically closing down all offices this Wednesday, the 5th, in observance of the National Day of Mourning for President Bush. So we've had the opportunity today to call individuals that were initially scheduled for appointments on Wednesday to let them know that we are going to reschedule them. But as far as money goes, USCIS does not call anybody and demand any payment or any money. We've seen it time and time again that people unfortunately fall victim to that, and they don't know any better. They're fearful. So what do? They go and they pay this money, which is unfortunate. Again, I mentioned about filing forms online. Do the I-90, which is to replace a lost, stolen, or expired green card. a travel document. They've also added a couple of new forms just recently. One is an N565, which is a form to replace a lost, damaged, or stolen certificate of naturalization. They've also placed on the N600 form, which is a certificate of citizenship for your children. So if people want to ask, you know, they want to find out more information, please direct them to our website. Again, the most specific thing I can say as far as our website, look at the last three letters, .gov, G-O-V. There is a USCIS.com out there, folks, that looks very official. The problem is they are they're a business, and they will charge folks for the information that they provide. We provide everything for free on our website. So if you could take notes and just ask people to contact USCIS.gov, ask Emma through that process or whatever, they will get the information from us, and it will be at no cost to them. Processing times can be reviewed online. You just simply type in the field office and or service center and the form number, and you'll be directed to a web page that will give you the two specific time frames. One is a time that identifies where 50% of the applications have been approved and reviewed or have been adjudicated, and the other one is, let me just talk about the N400 for naturalization. The second number that you'll see is usually a few months later, and that's where 93% of all applications have been adjudicated. So there's still 7% that are out there pending via potentially a background check or required information awaiting from the applicant. Once the applicant surpasses that second time frame, say it's 15 months or 14 months, there is a date identified at the bottom of that website. They may make an inquiry as far as to what the process is as far as getting their case resolved. Another just indication on the case status, they will need their receipt number that they'll get on the documents when they file their applications. It's available 24/7. This is perhaps one of the areas that I need to talk to people about the most, and it's changing their address with USCIS if they should relocate. I can't tell you how many times a week I will get an email from an individual telling me that they've moved locations from city to city or city to a different state, and say that they have not received a green card. And of course, the first question I ask is, did you file a change of address with USCIS? And most of the time it's no. What happens in that case is when USCIS mails a document or say a green card, a form to an individual, and it is deemed undeliverable and returned to USCIS, USCIS will hold on to that document or that card for 45 days. And at the end of 45 days, if they are not contacted by the individual, they will destroy that document. So in the case where if an individual filed an I-90 to get their green card replaced, and they changed locations but did not notify USCIS, and they did not contact them within that 45 days, they will have to refile to get another green card. That process right now is taking anywhere between 9 months and a year. So you can imagine the trauma that these folks are under, knowing that they don't have a physical green card to show their status, for upwards of 2 years. What I let them know is that once they have filed for that new green card, they can make an InfoPass appointment to come into one of our field offices to speak with one of our officers, who will give them what we call an addit stamp. It is an official stamp that will authorize them employment, and it basically extends the green card that they have, or shows that they have a lawful permanent resident status for at least a year. So it allows time for processing for them to get their new card. So in the event that they lose their card, they come in for a stamp. If they should not have a passport available to them, we ask them to bring in 2 passport style photos. We will give them another card. It's called an I-94. It's an arrival and departure document. Most employers need to see this document. They need to see that stamp. They need to see the green card to ensure that these individuals are still in a lawful status. And I try to calm the fears and letting people know that even though you don't have a physical card, you are still a lawful permanent resident. The only individual that is allowed to take your residency away is an immigration judge. So fear not, you are still a resident. You just need the physical proof that you have this. And that's why we give them that stamp either in their passport or on an I-94. Again, I talked a little bit briefly about the inquiry on the cases. Here are some other ones outside the normal processing time. An individual did not receive an appointment notice or document. I have gotten inquiries from folks in my mailbox. People have said that they were told that they were going to be scheduled for a ceremony or for an appointment, and they would inquire with me as to, when that might be. And if I have the capability, I will get them that information. Most oftentimes now with our new electronic filing system, we call ELIS. ELIS will generate an appointment notice for an individual, not only to come in for their interview, but for their oath ceremony as well. It used to be that when we as officers would interview an individual, we could give them a notice at the end of our interview with them to let them know when to come back to our field office for their naturalization ceremony. Through the ELIS program, they're the ones that are actually sending out the appointment notices. So they may get inquiries on this. So they can certainly, again, let us know if they need any additional information, if they need an accommodation. I've had people call me, say they need wheelchair access or they need a sign language interpreter. These are the things that we would have people inquire to us about. How to engage with USCIS, very important. I would be the one that I would encourage you to contact on this. We've got 42 of us out here nationwide. We provide information sessions for basic immigration. We've also done what I do typically 2 to 3 times a week, sometimes up to 5 times a week. I do naturalization information sessions. And I will do them at universities. I'll do them at public libraries. I've done them at museums. I've done them for Rotaries, Kiwanis clubs, you name it. I've gone in and just talked to people about, okay, these are the requirements it takes to become a United States citizen through the naturalization process. I did one Friday night at Queen's University in Charlotte and another one at a senior resource center up in Greensboro on Saturday. So there's a lot of interest in this, and it's an opportunity for us to get out there again and build that rapport with the community to let them know, these guys in immigration are not all what you see on television or hear on the news. We're the guys that are out there trying to assist them in obtaining these benefits and to reach out to those almost 9 million people that are out there. Again, I talked about the naturalization presentations. The big thing with this is there is an opportunity for people to ask questions. I would have a 12-minute video that I like to show and run through a 20-minute presentation, but I have often spent upwards of an hour to 2 hours answering questions for folks. It puts them at ease, and that's my goal, is to make sure that people feel confident that they can do this. This is a very stressful process, and I understand that as being a former adjudicator. I've read the cases on these folks. I know there are limitations on their education background, but I want to reassure them that if they can complete these particular items, they can get through this process and become United States citizens. What we do with the naturalization process there is we just determine their eligibility. For folks, we can't physically help them prepare their N-400, but I can certainly direct them to other agencies that could assist them should they need it. Tell them they have to attend a biometrics appointment and give them the study materials. One of the things that is not identified in this presentation is USCIS has developed a new phone app that folks can use, and it is basically the same exact thing that they have online, where an individual can pull up 20 questions at a time. They are asked in a multiple choice format, and it'll identify whether they answered the question correctly or incorrectly, and then keep a total of that. And I tell folks, I said, you may not have an opportunity to look at this booklet, but certainly you have an opportunity to look at your phone, and practically everybody keeps their phone with them all the time. So as you're sitting in the doctor's office or waiting, on a break, you can pull up and answer, half a dozen questions and just keep going through that. And the repetition of that is going to help them to remember the answers to these questions, because I let them know that when they come in for their exam and for their interview, they have to specifically know the answer. I can't give them a multiple choice answer. They've got to identify a specific answer for that question. We will give folks an English language test if they do not qualify for an age waiver. The age waiver is for individuals who have been lawful permanent residents for at least 20 years and have reached age 50, or they've been a resident for 15 years and have reached age 55. If they meet one of those two requirements, we will waive the English requirement, and they can take the entire interview in their native language through the use of an interpreter that we have available to us that we can call into on the phone. If we have an individual who's been a resident for 20 years and they've reached age 65, they also are entitled to an age waiver with no English requirement, but they will only, instead of having to study 100 questions on the civics test, they will only have to study 30. Very important, because I've been approached by many people that were in their 60s and 70s that were told that they had to study all 100 questions rather than the 30 because of their age. And I identified the fact that they hadn't met the second requirement, which was the time as a lawful permanent resident. But it's very simple that we point this out to folks. The final act is for them to attend an oath ceremony and take the oath of allegiance. We've hosted several naturalization ceremonies throughout libraries in the Carolinas. We typically go up to the Winston-Salem area twice a year to do a children's N600 ceremony, where children who have obtained citizenship through their parents and their parents have filed the N600 certificate of citizenship for their child. Once that has been approved and we produce the certificate, we will hold a naturalization ceremony for the children. And those age 14 and over must recite the same oath of allegiance as their parents did. For those under the age of 14, we will have the parents just sign for the certificate for their children. I would highly encourage you, if you would have the space available and would be interested in hosting a naturalization ceremony, please let me know. We need about, I want to say 60 to 90 days. It could be a little bit longer depending upon the location, but 60 to 90 days ahead of time would allow us the opportunity to work out the logistics of the ceremony itself, as well as identifying the individuals who are going to participate as the candidates for citizenship, and to get our staff together to get those volunteers to come out in the community to do this. We have held these ceremonies on weekends. We've held them during the workday and in the evenings. So whatever your preference is, whatever you think you should be able to accommodate, please let us know, because we'd be more than happy to come out and do these ceremonies. We are required by our headquarters to take care of so many external ceremonies annually. And we absolutely love doing ceremonies at libraries and museums. It's just, again, it's such an inviting atmosphere for individuals to come into, and to be able to host an event such as this. It also exposes those other patrons to your facility to come in and take part and to witness these ceremonies, because if you've never witnessed an oath ceremony, you're missing out. They are something very special to encounter. It's really neat. The last thing I want to just briefly touch on again is our scams. Please have people not, listen to neighbors if they come and they ask you if you know anything about other people in the neighborhood helping the people fill out their forms. Direct them to our website. We have on our website, again, USCIS.gov. We have another one called /avoid scams. I had an elderly lady approach me several years ago when I was an adjudicator working at customer service section, that she had paid a gentleman $3,000 to assist her in putting her citizenship application together. She came to me almost a year later with no documentation to prove that she had filed for this gentleman. and we had to tell her that unfortunately she had been taken advantage of. So we want people to seek out the right source. It never fails. When I go to do an outreach at a naturalization information session, someone in the audience will say, well, I've heard this, or my neighbor told me that. Please, pass on the information to them. They can contact us. Contact me specifically if you'd like. Here's my information. If you contact me by email, I tell you what, I have a much better response to you than I would via a phone. I'm on the road traveling quite a bit, and I do have access via my phone for the internet and for my email. And it's so much easier for me to keep track of who I can respond to. And besides, if you send me something in writing and I don't know the answer, I can forward it to one of my supervisors that I have access to in any of the 4 field offices, or I can reach out to folks in headquarters in Washington or at my lead in the regional office down in Orlando. So this is all I have for you today. I appreciate the opportunity to come and share with you. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions if you may have. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Daniel. Did anyone have any questions? Give a second if you want to type anything out. If you think of any questions at a later date, feel free to contact Daniel or to contact me if you have a question about, say, your collection or other library programs that you're doing.
And if you need materials, please let me know. I have no issues getting in the car and driving them out. I love getting out to our libraries and meeting the staff. Again, I love visiting our libraries. The friendliest people that are out there, I'll tell you. It's great. Thanks again, folks, for the opportunity to visit with you today.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Carol. Bye-bye.